Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We're just going to get started in just a sec here, getting everybody in. I'm going to share my screen, make sure that you're familiar with the chat and the questions box. And thank you so much for hopping on today. It's going to be a really fun webinar. I'm excited for this one. So it looks like we have a good group of folks already signed on here. So we're going to jump in. So welcome to today's webinar on the 2022 Marketing Guide. We're going to help you plan your year in marketing from start to finish. So we're going to cover a lot of content. It's going to be a really good one. I'm super excited for this one. So without further ado, let's jump in. So a couple of logistics before we jump into the content here. Just know for everyone on right now, the webinar will be recorded, so don't worry about taking notes or anything like that. You will get a copy of the webinar and the materials in your inbox later today after this webinar, so we will be sending them out to you. It will be recorded. It'll also be easily found on YouTube, so if you lose the email or just want to access it again, send it out, it's also going to be on YouTube. And then don't forget to submit your questions and stick around for the Q&A after. We had a really great session in the Q&A last time. I left plenty of time at the end to answer your questions. So make sure you get comfortable with the chat box, which we'll all have access to as well, and have access to the questions box where you can input your questions, and I'll go through those questions at the end. So definitely stick around for that. I'm really excited for that part. So just to introduce any newcomers to us, a little bit about WordStream and Local IQ. So WordStream is presented by our sister company, Local IQ here. WordStream is presented as a thought leader. So for Local IQ offers all of those full stack marketing services that folks might need. But if they just want to go and learn a little bit more about digital marketing and any sort of data insights and thought leadership concepts, they can hop on over to WordStream for that information. So they're kind of married together, where Local IQ offers the services and WordStream provides the insights. So it's wonderful to meet you all, and again, thanks for coming on today. A little bit about me, your presenter today. My name is Susie. I'm a content marketing specialist here at Local IQ, where I specialize in content on PPC, digital marketing, social media, pretty much everything under the sun when it comes to marketing. I was formerly a digital marketing consultant at WordStream, so I have been in the weeds of the client-facing side, you know, for any of those agency folks on here or any of those folks that have a consultant of their own. I was in their shoes, you know, working in accounts day in and day out. So really comfortable with that stuff as well, and that's what got me interested in writing educational content on it. I'm based out of Boston here in New England, and a little fun fact about me, this is my favorite season. I love to go snowboarding in the winter time. I just went up to New Hampshire last week, so that's what I'll be doing in my off days. And feel free to find me on Twitter and LinkedIn if you have questions afterwards as well. So I think a really good exercise that I've done a lot with my clients is to take a quick pulse check before you dive into any issues or problems that you want to solve. So I want folks to type into the chat here, and I'm monitoring the chat to see what people type in to tell me, you know, how are you feeling about your marketing plans? Are you feeling good and you already have your plan done? Are you okay, but maybe have a few questions? Are you a little iffy and could use some help, or are you totally lost? And okay, if you're totally lost, chat in. I know everybody's in different spots in their, you know, journey right now in marketing. Okay, we have some folks that are lost. That's okay. I've definitely been there. And that's what we're going to help you with today and work through today. Again, I already see a couple questions coming through for the recording. Healthy reminder while you all type in how you're doing. This will be recorded. It will be an hour-long webinar. And see, we have a few skiers in there. But yeah, it looks like a lot of people are enthusiastic, working on their planning, eager. This is great. So we have folks from all ends of the spectrum. So just know when we're going through the content today, it is going to be unique for each individual, and that's all right. Just know that, you know, you can take these concepts that we talk about and apply it to your own situation. I'm going to meet you at whatever level you're at today, so that is okay. So now that we have that pulse check, you know, we know where we're at. Sometimes it's good to identify the problem to understand the solution. So you know what you need to do for your marketing planning, so let's dig in. So what we're going to cover is your marketing channels. So we're going to look at some options for 2022 marketing. And then we're going to identify how you can use those channels to the best of their ability to promote your business or your client's business. And then we're also going to talk about how to identify budgeting, which is always the big question for a lot of folks when it comes to yearly planning. And then we're also going to talk about keeping up that consistency throughout the year with scheduling, and also some measurement and how to make sure that your plan is successful. So let's first jump into some marketing channels. Let's get to know our 2022 options. I think a lot of folks are all over, across the board with these. Some are doing maybe one channel, some are doing all of them. Everybody has varying budgets, totally okay. So I made this kind of like simple graphic here to talk through all of the different channels that you have available to you as different types of businesses and different types of agencies. And I just released the marketing channels resource guide on our local IQ blog yesterday, so definitely check that out. It goes through all this information I'm talking through a little bit more in depth if you have some more questions on that. But I want you to think of your marketing channels in pretty much two ways. There's the free side, right? That doesn't cost anything. And if you want to get your business out there and want to get the most leads possible, there's really no reason to not be using those free routes. And then, for those folks that do have a little bit of budget, also be looking at the paid side. And then for anybody in between, whether you're low budget, high budget, a lot of marketing channels have the ability to either use both or, use a little bit of budget or none at all. So there's a little bit of a middle ground here too that I wanted us to look at. So over here on the left, we have local listings. Those are your websites like Yelp, Google Business Profile, Facebook recommendations, things like that. They actually do make a huge impact regardless of your business type, whether you're B2B or B2C. Getting in those ratings and getting your business contact information and listings up to date is super, super helpful. So that's going to continue to be a trend in 2022 and something that I want folks to consider. Another thing here, we have that little audio mic for audio marketing. Just this past year in 2021, we saw the rise of Twitter Spaces, voice tweets, Clubhouse. Podcast marketing has also blown up in light of the pandemic. So I think audio marketing is going to be a really big thing coming in 2022 as a channel. And it is free, a great way to just hop on to Twitter or hop on to a podcast and talk about your business or, engage with your customers in that more intimate way through audio. And then, of course, I can't talk about free marketing channels without talking about SEO. That's the bread and butter of any free marketing channel marketing foundation. Of course, SEO is search engine optimization, where you're editing your web content, your website, to include keywords to help you rank organically on search engines like Google or Microsoft Bing. So those are kind of our free basic routes. And then I want to jump into what we have going on here in the middle. So at the top here, we have that little email icon. And yes, you can pioneer your email marketing and run it yourself for free. Or if you want to put a little bit of budget towards email automation or personalization, that's also an option. The other thing with that too is there's a lot of free tools online that you could use, for example, like MailChimp, I think has a free option too for marketing your emails and things like that. So that's definitely one that could meet anyone in the middle here. Going off of email, we have that little phone icon here. Mobile marketing is going to be a huge, huge thing. I think in 2022, most folks are on their smartphones day in and day out. So it can be something as simple as making your content concise enough to fit on a small screen, making sure your website is responsive for mobile phones, or you can take it to the next level and maybe run mobile only ads or, things like that. And then we have the big twins here, Facebook and Instagram. I mean, I don't think anyone is unfamiliar with these at this point. The infamous Facebook and now Meta or Instagram here. And again, you could post organically on these. You could put a little bit of budget behind a boosted post, or you could go full throttle with an ad campaign. So another great channel for you to consider when talking about your 2022 marketing. With that, with the mobile and Facebook and Instagram as of course an app, I want to include the little Apple icon here to just take a second to talk about apps. So there is, app marketing, and I think that's still going to continue to be a big thing. And you could place your business on an app, you could create your own app, you could run in-app ads. So that's just another channel that I want folks to consider. And then we also have here with those app ads, the video marketing or OTT, over the top streaming ads that you could do. So for video marketing, you're either, recording your own videos and posting them organically on social or on your website, wherever it may be, or you're also, putting a little bit of budget, going full throttle with over-the-top streaming ads, which are video ads that would show on platforms like YouTube, Hulu, streaming platforms like that. Last couple of channels I want you guys to think about today are, TikTok is on the rise. They actually just released a great guide on advertising and came out with an advertising platform this year. So I definitely expect that to be a trend in 2022. And that goes along with that video, creating those quick reels. They're pretty quick and easy to create, and they also get shared a lot on like Instagram and things like that too. So even if you're, B2B or something like that, and ruling out TikTok, I do think it's becoming bigger and bigger, and not just for, the typical audience that you would assume it has. And then along with that, of course, we have Snapchat too. Snapchat's kind of the same deal, although it's been a player for quite a while now. We have a complete guide on Snapchat ads if you are interested in going that route, and Snapchat marketing as well. But another one where you could put budget behind an ad or just post organically to your followers. And then the last couple of social platforms that I want to touch on here. Twitter, of course, I know I mentioned with the voice tweets and Twitter Spaces, so they're coming out with a lot of new things for advertising and promotion options, but you can also just be tweeting using those hashtags, posting interesting content organically, or promoting that content after the fact as well. Pinterest too, another place where you can post organically and get your business out there and your business ideas, give your customers ideas, give them tips, whatever it may be. And then the last one I want to touch on, which I think a lot of businesses are a little bit more fluent in, is LinkedIn. Like I mentioned, I'm on LinkedIn. You can use hashtags on there. You can use, videos. You can promote and use full-on LinkedIn ads, or you can just post organically. So, think about all those different social channels and all those different channels where, you want to have your business out there, your information out there. Maybe you don't go as aggressive as you might initially want, but it's great to get your feet wet with that and get some awareness. Last couple of things I'll mention for marketing channels is we have the AI here, that little brain symbol I love up there. AI, I think, is going to continue to be a huge trend in marketing in 2022. We're talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning. The big ad platforms are already using it, but you can, again, you could put some budget behind, an automation service for your own data analytics or something like that. Or you could just use what you have on hand on the ad platforms to make AR and VR ads, little video ads where, customers are taking a test drive or they're trying something on, something like that. Definitely a new trend and something to think about. And going off that, I did touch on the little logos of the two big ad platforms here. We have Microsoft Ads and Google Ads. You can do search on there. You can do display, shopping, video. So there's tons and tons of options on those platforms. They're going to continue to be big players. I kind of think of it with the PPC and SEO. Maybe I'm a little biased because I work in both, but I will say, I have this funny saying of, it's 2022, not 2002. So we want to have at the minimum, the PPC and the SEO. The search engines are still, very big. A lot of folks do still search before they become customers and make purchases, and we'll look at some data on that, but just something to think about. And then the last thing I'll say, which is near and dear to my heart, I mentioned it a little bit, is display. That's one of my niches, and that's when you post those images across websites. And now I had mentioned that with the ad platforms, but what a lot of folks don't know is you can run display or image ads on ad networks that aren't just within the platforms, right? So we have like Google Display Network or, Microsoft's Display Network, but then there's also other display networks, like networks of websites that you could show on. For example, on top of helping with Google Display Network and Microsoft, LookLikeU also partners with a network called Simplify that has a whole nother subset of websites that you can also show your ads on. So that's why I feel like we should consider it a little bit different, and another good channel that I wanted to touch on. So that was a lot, right? You're probably like, holy smokes, that's a ton of different channels. I don't know which one I want to pick. That was so much, but I'll kind of help you walk through picking your channels. And if you're thinking, well, that's a lot, I'm a little overwhelmed, maybe I just want to do one. I get that, but This is a super common data point here that's shown all over marketing collateral everywhere. It's the rule of 7. It's a really common rule. And it says that customers or people need to see something at least 7 times to retain it. Or in this case, customers need to see information about your business at least 7 times before they become a customer. So the more channels you're running on, the quicker you're hitting that rule of 7 in a way, and the quicker you'll get those customers. So it will help your business grow more if you're doing that cross-channel strategy. So I kind of talked about that multi-channel strategy, and I thought this was a good slide to include because it is a nice little breakdown of the different channels that I had just talked about. Again, running that multi-channel strategy would be just using kind of the same content in the business marketing collateral across different channels. A couple other ones that we didn't really touch on but are still just as equally important. Live chat, which I have a great stat on, that you can market your business right on your website, hold people onto your site, they get to chat, they stay on your site a little bit longer, and then you say, hey, by the way, we also offer this, this, and this in the chat. Remarketing and retargeting as well. The sunset of third-party data got pushed out to 2023, so in 2022, you might want to use it while you still can. And there's a lot of other great ones that we had talked about that I just want to, kind of help break that down a little bit. So long story short, when it comes to choosing your marketing channels, I'm not going to say you need to do XYZ channel today, right? Because that's going to be different for everyone. But we do know there's plenty of options regardless of your budget. Cross-channel strategies are going to be the way to go, and that's nothing new. I mean, that's definitely going to be a trend in 2022. And the other benefit of cross-channel strategies, and if you've ever come to any of our previous webinars, something I always preach is always have a backup plan. So when you have those cross-channel strategies, you're kind of covering your own butt because, should a platform go down or have an issue, for example, Facebook just went down back in October for a few hours, you're still promoting your business elsewhere. Okay, so now you know what marketing channels you're maybe thinking about. You have a lot of marketing channels that you kind of want to use, but how do you best use them? You pick them out, now what do you do? So you kind of want to ask yourself, well, how can I make this channel work for my business? Kind of think out of the box here. And I want everyone here to think about both the non-paid options and the paid options. Even if you have a super high budget and you want to just, dump it into ads because you think you have this budget to do so, maybe that budget could be better spent, in OTT ads or in social. So really think about, where you could do some organic and where you could do some paid versions of that same marketing. And definitely that's going to apply across the board. And also think about where your target audience is going to be and what they'll want to engage with. So a lot of it is like those funny channels that I was mentioning that you might be thinking, well, I'm definitely not going to go on, TikTok or something. And a good example of this is, let's say you're a B2B software company, right? And you want to show your display ads on B2B software websites only websites that talk about your niche industry. That makes sense at first glance, right? But then if you think about your decision makers or your buyers, your audience, when they're working, they're not reading articles about software. They already work and do that all day. They're browsing the news. They're maybe thinking about what they're going to have for dinner, on a recipe. So for example, putting your ads on like leisure sites would be totally different approach, but that's keeping that target audience in mind when you're thinking about your channels. If you're still totally lost after all of those channels I just ran through, 2 good places to start are SWOT and SMART analysis. Some of you may have seen this before, but if you're still struggling to choose your channels, think about SWOT. So if you need to identify what channels your business should use, think about, all right, what am I already running that's working well that I want to keep? What am I running that hasn't really worked out or that I should do more of? Maybe my competitors are doing it. What opportunities, do I have out there that I should go after? Again, what are my target audience people looking at? What are my competitors doing? And then also, what threats do I have right now? Where am I lacking? What is my competitor doing that I'm not? That'll help you identify what channels are really best. And then once you pick your channels, if you're still struggling on how to implement them, think about the SMART goals. And I'm sure some of you guys have seen this one as well. So let's say, for example, you say, all right, I know I want to do Instagram. I want to promote my business on Instagram. That's not really specific, but saying, I want to promote my business on Instagram by posting X times a week with X times of videos, commenting on X different posts, following X people, you know, that's a lot more measurable and a better way to hold yourself accountable. And that'll make it a little bit easier to stay on track and make sure that you're hitting your achievable goals. But if you don't have the capacity, you know, while running a business or something like that to, you know, post that often or follow that many people, then that's not really realistic and that's not really achievable. So make sure, you know, you take baby steps. I always say the hardest part of marketing is patience. You know, dedicating that time and working your way up to your goals is going to make it much better in the long run than trying to jump into something that you can't necessarily achieve right away. And then also making sure that you're holding yourself accountable across the timeline so it's easier to measure, but also that your goals and your tactics across your channels align with what your business is doing. So, you know, it wouldn't really make sense to promote your business on Instagram if your business doesn't currently have a super big social focus and it's, you know, putting all its budget towards LinkedIn or something like that. So definitely think about those. Hopefully that helps clarify how you guys should choose your channels for 2022 when planning your marketing. But we'll get a little bit more into that next. So one last thing that I thought would be helpful to show you guys when you're picking your channels for 2022 is some stats. So these were all pulled from Local IQ's 2022 marketing calendar guide. Definitely check that out. They're all signed in there, but they all came from Local IQ itself, HubSpot, The Drum, and Search Engine Journal. So really great resources for some key data. A couple of things I wanted to highlight here. Over on the top right, we have that online reviews are still influencing people the majority of the time, which I had talked about, so that's super exciting. We also have live chat here in the middle. I wasn't kidding when I said live chat is a high expectation of customers. I know I use live chat a lot. A couple other things here. Video is still going to be really big. I have a whole guide on video marketing on the Local IQ blog, so definitely check that out. Has some great stats in there as well. Personalized marketing is going to continue to be big, so like including first names and email subject lines, things like that. You know, search engines are still huge. Retargeting is still going to be a big thing. So hopefully this helps clarify with some stats like what channel really would make most sense. Yeah. So you know what channels, you have an idea, right, of what channels you might want to show on. You have an idea of what you want to do with them, but how do you pay for it all? So we're going to go through a really great way to pick out your budget. If you have no idea what your budget is, maybe you do, maybe you have a general idea but don't know how to execute on it, we're going to walk through all of that. It's going to be great. All right, so the first step to setting up your 2022 marketing budget is to organize your financial information. So take inventory. Take inventory of, you know, like everything that you are spending on right now, what you're bringing in right now, what you spent in 2020 or 2021, you know, things like that. Organize it, where you're spending, how you're spending it. Just take inventory, organize your information first because it'll make it a lot easier in the next few steps. I know it's annoying, but this is the time to take a little extra, you know, few minutes to do so, and then you're set for the year. Also, be sure to factor in the cost of the basics. So we're talking about like overhead costs, like, you know, office space or whatever it may be, but we're also talking about, you know, basic marketing needs. So you could be bringing in all the leads and the clicks in the world from social and PPC and SEO, but if you're not, you know, sending them to an efficient site, those leads aren't going to convert. So for example, a website would be a really good place to start for the cost of the basics. And then there's pretty much two common ways that we see people checking for the percentage, for how to split up their marketing budget. You could either do the percentage of monthly revenue, which is pretty self-explanatory here, or you could do goal-based. So for percentage of monthly revenue, we most commonly see at the minimum, like businesses taking, or small businesses anyway, taking, you know, maybe 5 to 10% of their monthly revenue and putting that towards their marketing budget. versus goal-based is a little bit different. So let's say, you want to pull in 10 clients a day, 10 conversions a day, and you pull in those clicks for $10 a click. So you need at minimum 10 clicks a day to get those 10 clients, and those 10 clicks better convert. So at minimum you need at least $100 a day to get those 10 clicks, for example. But you probably aren't going to convert every single click. So you might need to lever that a little bit higher or lower based on your goals. So that's kind of how you could think of your goal-based budget. There is no right or wrong answer on which one you choose, but those are just two simple ways to kind of break it down. And then after you know how much, per month or per quarter or whatever it may be on how to spend, you have to decide how you're actually going to execute on that budget. So there's two real ways that you could do it. You could do it in-house, which is still going to cost you money, or you could outsource it. And that can also vary in cost, right? So if you do it in-house, if you do it maybe yourself, you're still kind of taking time away, and time is money, of course, from running your business to market. Or you could hire someone and put forth the money to have a full-time person or a part-time person doing that for you in-house. Or you could outsource to an agency. And that's going to vary too. You could have a hands-off consultant that, doesn't really, do as much, or you could do a la carte services with an agency, or do a full stack, full service agency as well. So just kind of think about what you want to do there, because that's going to also take away from your marketing budget. And then start estimating how much it's going to cost you to do all of the fun things that you want to do across your channels, right? So again, like if I know that I want to be on Instagram, then I should start estimating, all right, am I going to put budget behind Instagram? Am I just going to do organic? Am I going to go full throttle with ads? Because that will change how much you're going to put towards each one. So that way you can kind of allocate a certain amount to each channel. And then again, this is going to be personalized and custom to each person, but break it down in a way that makes sense for you. Whether you're going to allocate and put that monthly revenue or, whatever it may be, money aside, monthly, weekly, quarterly, fiscal year, whatever makes sense to you, but just make sure you have it set up so that you can track and make sure you're staying on track with your overall yearly budget. And then the last step, and I think this gets forgotten a lot, which is why I put it in here, but get comfortable with your payment methods. So your budget, how much you're going to spend. Well, how does that actually work? I know this is like a logistical step, but don't forget it. I've seen in my day, the last thing you want is to be running ads and have it all of a sudden go down because your payment method is outdated, or, your credit card limit hit its limit. So, are you going to be paying on invoices? Are you going to be paying on credit card? Which credit card? Set that up ahead of time so you don't have to worry about it once you start outputting content. All right, so you have your budget, you're set up on your channels, you have an idea. Well, how do you actually make this happen? So essentially, you want to plan your 2022 marketing ahead of time. Now, this is, again, one of those situations where you're going to set aside a little bit of time now, and take a little bit more time than you normally would to pre-plan, and then you're good to go for the year. So kind of old-fashioned, but I really recommend just using a calendar. We have our own great marketing calendar. Like I said, you can use your own, you can use a pen and paper calendar. There's tons of free calendar templates online. So set up a calendar and literally go month by month, week by week, and try and get a loose idea of what you're going to be running when. Now, of course, nobody knows what they're going to be doing in November 2022. I don't, but at least you'll have an idea or have a loose plan to stick to and help you stay consistent throughout the year. So when you're planning that calendar, a couple of things to consider. Let's say you have all these channels and all these tactics, and you don't really know, where to go from here, how to set that up month by month. So think about the timing. What might your business or your client's business be doing throughout the year? I might know that, okay, product X is going to drop in July of 2022, roughly tentative. So I want to account for, planning for that and execution on that ahead of time. Maybe start in June, start brainstorming, and then create the content, and then edit the content and QA the content, and then finally post it live, and then kind of set up some check-ins to make sure you're measuring that and reporting on that. So really think about, what you think would work best with your business throughout the year, what channel would best match that, and then account for the time it'll take to create the content and to edit and execute on it. All right, awesome. So once you know that you have your calendar good to go, you're ready to go. You have your tactics set up, you have your measurement and your budget, and you're running with it. How do you stay consistent? How do you know that this plan is successful? So you want to make sure that you've set up reporting methods ahead of time that work for you. It's going to be different for everyone. There's a lot of great free online reporting tools out there. We even have a free grader that you can try if you want to see where you're at right now. But just make sure you find what works for you and set it up and test ahead of time, because the last thing you want is to lack confidence in the numbers once you start reporting. So make sure that you're confident in what you're tracking and that it's working. So it might be worth sacrificing, one little false lead to go in to your website and test that one lead as yourself and make sure that it's tracking correctly. So make sure that you have that good to go, because that's going to be really important when you measure your success. And then to keep yourself on track with your reporting, schedule regular check-ins and schedule that, add that to your calendar throughout the year. So that might mean, depending on, your bandwidth, right? Checking in once every 2 weeks, once a month, once a quarter, and just sitting down for a half hour, an hour, and checking through all those reporting methods, those dashboards that you might have set up, and see, how you're doing, and benchmark that and track that from the previous month or the previous quarter or from the previous year. So keeping consistent with how you measure is going to be really important. And then also too, I kind of mentioned this when I said, track it from the month before, but kind of benchmark with that schedule when you check in of how you were doing previously to keep yourself on track. So you want to benchmark yourself, but you also want to benchmark, yourself against the competition, right? So get comfortable using, benchmarking tools. That we have a ton of benchmarking articles out there on our blogs. I just did a benchmarking webinar last month. Definitely check it out. It's on YouTube. But just find ways to compare yourself to your industry and say, so that way you have an idea, even if you don't have any historical data of, all right, am I way above the average of the industry? Am I way below? What do I need to do next? And when you do that, you also want to be thinking about, what do I do if I'm doing way better than my industry or my previous benchmarks? Or what do I do if I'm doing super poorly? So prepare for those best and worst case scenarios, because you don't want to be caught off guard when you're reporting and being like, what do I do next? So just kind of think ahead, like, all right, what happens if I do way poorly than I thought I would do? Or if I do knock it out of the park, do I pull back? Do I let that continue to run? Kind of think about that ahead of time so you're not caught off guard. We know we can't really take marketing too personal, so we need to be prepared for whatever the data throws at us. So I know that was a ton of information that I flew through, and we'll kind of wrap it up and then jump into questions. But a few of the key takeaways that I want you guys to remember is know your where and how. So know what channels you're going to show on, where you're going to show your business, where you're going to promote it, and how you're going to promote it. So that's really your first initial steps. And the reason I say that before budget is because, again, there's so many free and paid ways to use all of those channels. So even if your budget doesn't always align with what you really want to do, you can think out of the box to still get your business out there on those platforms. And then, of course, the big money question that everybody wonders is how to get familiar with your budget. So know when you can splurge or when you can save. Know where, maybe it's not really worth putting all that budget towards that one platform. When I'm already doing well, maybe I want to put more budgets to where I want to grow. So definitely try that as well and get familiar. Make sure you set your budget up, go through the steps. Again, you'll get this information afterwards. It's going to be really helpful. You can find it on YouTube. So do that. And then again, consistency is everything. So create a schedule and stick to it. And having the calendar done will help you stay consistent and, you know, stick to your plan. And then I always preach this at the end of my webinars. If any of you are returners, you know, always have a backup plan. Have those, you know, extra channels in place. Have that plan in the back of your mind for when you jump into your reporting. You know, all of that good stuff. Find ways to, you know, measure your success, and all of that great stuff. So be sure to have your backup plan. Be sure to get your reporting in place, you know, and then you're good to run, but not before, not a second before. Those are all good to go. All right. So we're going to put up a quick poll right now. So if you felt like this was helpful and you're feeling a little bit better about your 2022 marketing, and you know you want maybe a little bit more of a personalized assessment on how you can plan your own marketing, feel free to opt in. Yes, there you can have a digital marketing expert, you know, help and take a look at your individual case. Like I said, it's different for everyone. So feel free to opt in. Yes, there. If you feel good, if this was helpful and you already have your plan good to go, feel free to hit no thanks. And I'll give you all a moment to do that while I start checking out the chat and the questions here. Looks like we had some really great ones coming in. Feel free to put your questions in. Let's see what we got going on here. Type your questions into the question box. Let's see. All right. Let's see what we got. We have a ton of questions coming in. This is awesome. And I will start picking out some of these. Okay, great question here to start off with. What is a cross-channel strategy? So this was asked by Deborah. Thank you for asking this, Deborah. A cross-channel strategy is a marketing strategy or a marketing plan. Let's say you're planning for 2022, where you're leveraging more than one channel, which means you're showing your business in more than one place. So you could be running, you know, organic posts on Facebook and running, you know, one PPC ad, and boom, you have a cross-channel strategy right there because you're showing on Facebook and on Google search ads, or, you know, vice versa. So really just making sure that you're promoting your business in more than one place. And I definitely think it's important to hit that rule of 7 of, you know, showing your business more than 7 times or more to your ideal customer to make them a customer. Let's see. Hopefully that helped answer the cross-channel strategies questions. We have a few others coming in, so feel free to type those other questions in. All right, so what is OTT? Great question. So OTT stands for over-the-top streaming. And it's a fairly new concept. Even, you know, I've been in the game for a few years and it's still, you know, fairly new. So this is a great question. Thank you for asking it, Alan. OTT stands for over-the-top streaming. I know I said that, but essentially it means that you're showing ads on streaming platforms. So, you know, I know that I don't pay for cable. I pay for Netflix and I pay for Hulu and I pay for, you know, Discovery and Disney Plus and all those types of streaming networks have their own option to place ads on them, place video ads on them. So you can create a great video ad, and while I'm watching my favorite show, I see your ad come up in between the breaks of my show. So that's what an OTT streaming ad. We have a few really great articles on it on both blogs. Definitely check it out. I hope that explained the basics of the concept, but feel free to keep those questions coming. Okay, great question here from Gary. A little bit of a tough one. Have you crunched the numbers of the different channels and determined which have indicated the best ROI? So Gary, you know, I wish that there was one size fits all answer for this, but there's not. Everybody's going to have different ROI across channels. So, you know, we have a lot of great benchmarking data across many different channels. So definitely check it out to see what the industry is normally seeing. But it is going to be different. And that's why, you know, it is tough in a way and scary to start new channels that you're not totally sure you're going to see a return on. So that's why you want to be thinking about, all right, is this worth putting, maybe a little bit of budget, towards it to get my feet wet? Or do I start organic, see what I can get? Do I build up an audience on another platform so I'm already good to go on the new channel? Things like that. Okay, let's see. Is there a template? This is asked by Teresa. Is there a template for the marketing budget and plan? Yes, we have tons of content on the LocalIQ site to help you set that up. A lot of this was taken from our marketing lab as well, so check out our marketing lab. There is a lot of templates on our site to help walk you through that budgeting and planning. And then the marketing calendar is a guide that we have out right now. Definitely check it out. You can do a quick search on our site to find it, and you'll be able to find it and download it for free. And it has, all the information you need for, setting up. It pretty much goes month by month and gives you suggestions, ideas, things going on that you need to be aware of for your marketing. And then you go ahead and download it, input whatever you need to, you want to do on those days and times and weeks and months. Okay, great question from Carrie here. Do you recommend tracking all the content you are posting on social media channels? Yes. So for example, I myself working on some, accounts right now and seeing clients do it as well. You track both your organic and you track your paid. So, you might be posting a few times a day organically. Find a way, there's a lot of free platforms and free tools that you can use, but find a way to keep track of what your organic posts are. It's great to pre-plan your organic posts because then you don't have to worry about them and you can put more effort into your paid social ads while you kind of like let your organic, content on social media run on autopilot. So definitely track that because it can be very indicative of how your paid social ads and your other channels are going to perform. Like if you don't really have a huge audience on social media, your organic posts are going to make all the difference in building that audience, building that brand awareness, and triggering those searches for search ads, for example, later. I hope that helps answer the question. Let's see. Someone asked for a link to the LocalIQ site from James. Feel free to just type LocalIQ, all lowercase, LOCALIQ.com, and you'll be able to see it pop right up. Lori asks, do you have any specific calendar tools you recommend? I'm using an Excel sheet right now. Excel works. If it works for you, that's totally fine. Again, like I said, we have tools. If you do a quick search, you can find a few. There's some really good ones out there for free. So I would just do a little bit of research. We have a few articles on different resources that you can use for free as well. Check them out. And that should give you some ideas. But I've seen a lot of folks use Excel, so definitely not knocking Excel by any means. Okay, Benjamin asked a great question. What method is being used when ads pop up that reflect your previous online searches? So your previous online searches, so he's talking about remarketing or retargeting ads here, Benjamin. So when you browse a site, let's say I'm shopping for boots, and then I go to look at a recipe because I'm thinking about what I'm cooking for dinner tonight and I see an ad for boots, that's a remarketing ad or a retargeting ad. Those two terms are used fairly interchangeably. And how that's tracked is, again, that cookie data where that I opted into the cookies on that boot website. So now they have my information as an internet user, and then obviously not all of your information. And I think a lot of people get scared by that, but it's not like they know your first, last name, where you live, and what your bank account is. They know that you are this device user, this anonymous device user that visited one site and then, went to another site. So then they're seeing, oh, they're on this site. Well, I have an ad plugged into that's ready to serve on that site. So I'm going to show my ad at this point. That's remarketing or retargeting in a very kind of broken down way. It's a little bit, of course, more intricate than that. And feel free to look at some of our more in-depth articles on it, but hopefully that broken down the basic concept of it. And that will be, changing a little bit. Of course, third-party cookie data is going away in 2023. We still have it for 2022, We have a lot of great resources on that. It's not that we're going to lose the data. It's just what's going to change is how we collect it. Okay, Stephen asked, is geofencing worthwhile? Yes, and we have a ton of content on that, and it's really for any type of business. It's worthwhile because a lot of folks, they want to see ads that are relevant to them and where they're at, but also geofencing helps you save money because you're only targeting and spending when folks are in a certain location. So it is really common practice. Most accounts that I've seen do it, so it's definitely worth it. I hope that helped answer a little bit. You can go really in depth with geofencing, but it gives the illusion that folks are working with a business that's nearby. And I think a lot of folks like that, even if you're not necessarily nearby, they know that you're accessible. And again, it also helps you because you're able to more narrowly target, okay, I know I'm only serving to these specific people within this location. When they exit that location, they're not going to see it anymore. I'm not going to be wasting my money. Okay, Dan asked a pretty in-depth question, which we can go for. He says he's trying to put time towards his top channels for where he's running ads. He's a startup. He's the only person handling digital marketing, kind of a one-man band here. And he asks, what would you say is a manageable number for one marketing person in terms to handle, like out of all the channels, how many channels could one person handle? That's a good question. It really is going to vary on the workload of the other person and what tools they're using. If you're using automation tools, like maybe I'm using a platform to manage all my social media accounts in one swoop, then they can handle a lot more channels than if they're logging into Facebook separately and logging into Instagram separately. So it's really going to be the tools that you're leveraging that's going to make all the difference in how you can manage your marketing on your own. This is a really common question too from Vincent. Thanks for asking this, Vincent. Is everyday posting to social media a little overkill? It really depends on the platform. So you'd be surprised, and there's some really great information out there on, how often or how frequently you should be posting per week, per day on these different platforms. It's gonna vary. So for Twitter, for example, you can easily organically post, multiple times a day, and it's not gonna kill your audience. It's not gonna kill your account. Versus something like LinkedIn, it's actually a little less frequent than that. It's actually, maybe a couple times a week. So yes, but it depends on the platform. I guess I can try and list them out, but I don't have the exact data in front of me, so I don't think that would be the most accurate way, but hopefully that gave you a little bit of an idea. This is a great question from Natasha. I have an OTT network. Should I still be advertising on other platforms? Yes, absolutely. And the reason why I say that is OTT is helpful, right? Because you're showing on those streaming platforms. But what do they do after they see that ad? Most likely, they're not going to type in your website directly and go convert right away. They're probably going to do a couple searches, maybe see if you're on Instagram, look you up somehow, some way. So you want to be advertising your business on other platforms. You want to be showing up when they make that search. You want to be showing up when they, are scrolling through their social media accounts. So definitely be promoting your business and advertising your business on other platforms on top of OTT. Not to say OTT isn't effective. It's extremely effective, but you want to be doing a little bit more on top of that to make sure you capture that audience even after they see your ad. Brenda asked the best way to learn geofencing. Honestly, you can set it up in your platforms. We have a really great, and I know I keep plugging, and I didn't know I was going to plug the blog this much, honestly. I mean that. But we have a really good, geofencing 101 blog that you should take a look at. And it breaks down like how to learn it pretty quick. One of the better ones I've seen out there, and that's totally unbiased because I know I've worked with accounts that, aren't always, super well versed in that. So I would say that would be a good place to start. Competitor benchmarks. There are some tools that you can plug in. This is from Val. There are a few tools you can plug in to see how you stack up against your competitors. Or again, just search industry benchmarks WordStream, industry benchmarks local IQ, and you'll be able to find some articles on that. Again, we have a few. Marketing trend sites from Jack. He asked, what are those sites that you can find marketing trends? So I know I mentioned, of course, WordStream and local IQ, but a couple other big players that give decent trends. HubSpot, of course, Campaign Monitor, Marketing Dive, Social Media Today, all great places to start. Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Land. Carrie asked if I recommend a specific social software like Hootsuite, Canva, or Simple Spreadsheets. Hootsuite, Canva, and Spreadsheets are all great, and I've seen folks across the board use all of them. Canva is great, and keep your eye out. We're going to come out with a lot of new great Canva content coming in 2022, so it's big. John asked for me to recite the site one more time. It is local IQ, all lowercase, LOCALIQ.com. Natasha asked another really great question on social media. When you schedule your content to be posted on social media, does it impact your ranking on the social media platform? Actually, no. And I wrote a couple articles on this, and this was released from Facebook and Instagram actually this year. They don't base your ranking on like what outside tools you're using or how you're scheduling. They base it off your interaction, information about the quality of like your account, your profile, and then information about how you interact and your audience interacts with one another. So that's like kind of a quick snapshot of how they rank you, but it's not based off like a schedule or anything like that. W here, Truder asks, think about email marketing or old school list buys. Does local IQ have experience or insights on this? They do. We work with that frequently. Alan asked another great question, and I know we're getting close to time, so I'll wrap up with a couple more questions here. So Alan, he asked, what is PPC? PPC stands for pay-per-click advertising. Pay-per-click means you are showing your ad on like a search engine or something like that. And when someone sees your ad, they click on it and you therefore pay for that click. So if you get an impression, if they see your ad and they don't click on it, you don't pay for that click. But the click gets them to your website, and that's how you'll make money or how you'll get them to convert. All right. A couple other, we have maybe a couple more minutes for maybe one or two more questions, so I'll try and make them a good one. We got another one from Brenda here. What is the most powerful SEO platform other than Google My Business, and is YouTube better than other platforms? So this is a two-part question. So for SEO, there's not really one powerful, I wish it was that easy, one powerful all-knowing being of SEO. But Google My Business is big. Yelp is also very big. And then looking at, the search engines, I would say Yelp and Google My Business are probably the biggest. There are a few other online review sites. I hope that helped answer the question. And then is YouTube better than other platforms? It's definitely really, really big, and it's continuing to grow, and video ads and ad placements on there are still going to be huge. So it is big. It's not necessarily better. I don't think one platform is like better or easier than the other. There's pros and cons to everyone, which I know is a yes and no question, but to answer your question a little bit, yeah, they're pretty big. They're pretty big. So hopefully that helped, Brenda. All right. So Carrie asked if each social media, and this will be our last question, and again, thank you all for joining. Carrie asked if each social media channel provides analytics so you can determine which posts perform the best. Yes, to an extent they do. You have to dig a little bit if you're just doing organic. If you use a tool, you're automatically going to get more insights. If you do paid ads, automatically going to get more insights. It really depends on what you're doing on the platform. You will get some information, and it really depends on how you finesse that information. You couldn't consider followers a way to track your performance or not. So there is some. It really depends on the platform. So that is going to be the answer to that. And then Alan asked one more good one. We have 1 more minute, so we'll put that in. He wants to know, what are the top 1 to 3 KPIs I look for when determining an effective marketing campaign? Good question. And I talk about this a little bit in my search advertising benchmarks webinar, but 1 to 3 KPIs that I look for, and that's going to vary, right? Because some people, just want brand awareness and want those impressions. Some people are like dead set on the ROI and want to see their return on ad spend and their CPA, their cost per conversion right away. I would say the top 1 to 3 KPIs that I look for are definitely ROI, and that's going to vary by platform, but we're thinking, cost per conversion, return on ad spend, money that you put in, how much are you getting out of it? And then I would also say clicks or engagement. So are they clicking? Are they commenting? Are they liking? Are they looking me up later? That type of thing. That's definitely important. So definitely that click-through rate and those engagement rates. So that was a few. I hope that helped. Thank you all for joining. This has been a really great session. Again, you'll get the recording and the information after this webinar ends later today in your inbox. Again, feel free to find me on LinkedIn, Twitter. Thank you all for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.